You're watching Open Agenda. Here's our host, Joe White.
Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. We're the third week of May 2025, and both the City Council and the County Council are very busy both with budget season and with potential lawsuits coming the way for the city in particular. So in order to talk about both of those subjects, I brought in Bob Taylor from Salisbury.
Hi, Joe.
Hi. And Mike Goldberg from Delmar. How are you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, thank you.
So, Bob, I want to start with you. City Council had their meeting on Monday, May 19th. And let's talk. I know they had some legislative stuff, but let's talk about the work session. In particular, City Council President Deshaun Dowdy brought in some developers to talk about the progress of their development, but seemed to be really geared towards Mayor Randy Taylor.
Well, you could say that. It was more like gimme, gimme, gimme.
Okay.
As I said in my public comment, it was the same old, same old.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Before I ask you all to just state your name and your respective projects for the record.
Brad Gillis, Salisbury Town Center.
Dave Layfield, Green Street Housing, SBY Market Center, which is located at City Parking Lot 30.
Nick Simpson, Mentis Capital with Lot 10 and the Hotel Conference Center development.
Overview and for the public, what your project is, where it is currently, and then, of course, how the city can be of support.
Again, we're developing former parking lots number 1, 11, and 15. The four items that we're requesting of the city of Salisbury after we have fulfilled our commitments, the milestone for us was final site plan approval.
I've built thousands and thousands of affordable units, over $1 billion worth of value in my career over a 30-year span. All rental housing, primarily using state and federal subsidy programs. We also work with many municipalities. Affordable housing is difficult. So what I would ask is, if the mayor's refusing to sign them, which clearly after 74 days, I have to assume that he doesn't have an intention to, what I would ask is that you just pass an ordinance saying when it's time to close, and I'm not asking you to sign it right now, someone, whether it be the mayor of Salisbury or someone that's willing to do it, if the mayor isn't, sign this form of document. 2 ordinances, 1 ordinance, whatever.
With regard to the parking lot agreement is, again, a function of the project being completed, and that's far from being, as I understand it from DID, the last time you guys came in for review was in November of 24. That's been almost 6 months ago. Why am I going to get more intertwined with a project that's not even approved or built yet? Pilot component, it seems like you're just leading with that and then blaming me for not wanting to entertain it. You perceive me as an opponent. What I am is a proponent of the city of Salisbury, and I'm fighting that fight. So to the extent that you're collateral damage, I apologize, but what I'm trying to do is represent the city of Salisbury. Period, new paragraph.
The state of Maryland granted a grant for our project, which is a multi-million-dollar investment in our city. And we've been talking about having a hotel and conference center in Salisbury, Maryland since the 1990s, when I've seen reports about, on particularly this lot, developing the blueprints and moving the project forward with the expectation that the grant was going to be issued to the project. Since then, we have presented evidence from the Department of General Services, who is issuing the grant, that they approve of where the dollars are being spent on our project. And today, we're just being held up by the lack of signing of the subrecipient agreement, which is just saying that the funds can flow through to the project. And today, all we're asking is approval of that subrecipient agreement to be signed by the city so that the project can move forward, so that we can be good stewards of.
We could never agree on the terms of what could be spent on their behalf. We actually got an internal quote for infrastructure for the project internal to us, but the applicant would constantly ask for projects or items that were included in the project, elevators and various expenses, which were not part of the grant. The terminology used were eligible expenses. Well, they're eligible expenses as long as they're city infrastructure items, but not for a private developer. Are you telling me you have a commitment from a franchisor for a hotel?
We've had a commitment for prior to.
I've never seen it to this day.
and we've actually had to pay fees to Hilton
Okay.
for that agreement. And
So you're saying that,
So-
on the record, you're saying that right now?
100% Hilton blueprint.
Well, you're keeping it a secret because DID has nothing in their files.
The city itself, it's just simply funds that are flowing from the Department of General Services into the project, and the director of the Department of General Services has reviewed Exhibit B, and they have approved it. Despite internal approvals of what infrastructure might be, the state has a different definition.
It's not true. It's absolutely not true.
I was more interested in trying to promote some actual active affordable housing measures,
Okay.
which I've been on the city council asking them for. They keep talking about it, nothing gets done. In particular, I think we can modify the Horizon, that's a tax giveaway program, as you may be familiar with, for downtown development, to require that if you're going to get that 20-year tax waiver, you've got to provide some affordable housing.
Because right now that's not a provision, right?
Yeah, and that's right. And I'm not talking about a project like the one that Green Street wants to do, which is financed by what's called low-income housing tax credits. That's a federal government developer subsidy program.
Yeah.
It's run through the state.
You're talking about
I'm talking-
actual private development that leads to housing that is considered in that affordable range.
Yeah.
Presentation, the opportunity for the developers, in my opinion, had potential to be beneficial, but the fact that it was added to the agenda at the last minute, giving no opportunity for DID or the mayor to prepare, it just appears to have had a nefarious intention instead of a beneficial.
Joe Venosa, Salisbury, just that it's never been this particular city council's desire to actually push for genuine affordable housing. I know some members individually support that, but by and large, it seems the majority don't, certainly not the city council president. What they have, of course, prioritized are the subsidies to the developers. That's different than affordable housing. It is a disgrace in a city where we have more than 2/3 of our school children living in poverty. Absolutely disgraceful, and it puts us as the laughingstock of Maryland. So let's call it out for what it is. Corporate welfare and special privilege treatment for the good old boys of Salisbury, and nothing more.
Isn't one of the metrics for affordable housing people spending 30% of their income, the gross income, on their housing? So if they're making $3,000 a month in gross, now this is a couple in this case, or your example, that they're not spending more than $900, or obviously somebody probably makes more than that now, but
Yeah, that's one guideline. In the affordable housing field, it's based to some extent on a percentage of area median income.
okay,
What's sometimes called AMI.
okay.
And both of those things kind of relate to what we're talking about.
Now, do the downtown Salisbury apartments, the ones that just the density got increased for, do they qualify as affordable housing?
None of the projects that are proposed for downtown, either in the downtown area behind the library or across the river, the Marina Landing project, a little further to the west, these are all high-end type units.
How did we get here? I mean, the Marina Landing, the downtown Salisbury apartments, those are all built on land that was once owned by the city. Why did the city sell them, and we're still 8 years later?
Well, I mean, I guess the root factor there is Jake Day.
Okay.
I mean, he promoted all of this. As I've told people, he's kind of gotten the gold mine. Salisbury got the shaft because we're left with this. And just for an example, on Marina Landing, that project was sold for the grand total of $1.
Okay.
It's 2.5 acres. Now that works out to about 40 cents an acre.
Okay.
That's probably the all-time low sale price in Wicomico County.
Well, there's other facets of the Marina Landing that you and I have talked about at other times. You've spoken about them at the city council, the parking situation and the marina situation. So can you explain to Mike and I a little bit more about those two parts in particular?
Well, I mean, you have to kind of go into the weeds a little bit on this. Right now, as proposed, the project would have 76 apartment units. It would be in 3 separate buildings.
Okay.
And it would also have, on the first floor of each of those buildings, commercial space. That would
Okay.
total about 27,000 square feet.
And they need parking too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, let's relate that to parking. Now, under the code requirements, it would be about 146 spaces for the residential units. It would be about 108 spaces for the commercial space.
Okay.
Using the normal standards. That's about 254 spaces.
Well, how many are there?
On the Marina Landing site itself, there are 105 spaces.
And is this a city-owned parking lot?
Well, the Marina Landing has been sold. I'm talking about the site for
Okay.
Marina Landing, the 2.5 acres.
Okay. So there's 105 there.
105 there.
And what about the city-owned parking
Well,
next door?
This is the deal that
Okay.
was made, or leasing the marina to the developer of the Marina Landing project for $1 a year.
For how many years?
I think the initial term is 50 years, and then I believe there are 2 renewal terms.
Oh.
So it could
Mike,
go-
you're not likely to see that lease come to
Yeah.
an end.
Oh, I'm planning on it.
Yeah. The other thing they did when they did the amended agreement in 2022, the amended land disposition agreement, they put in a parking lot agreement. Now, the parking lot that I'm talking about now is the city parking lot that is between the marina site and Brew River Restaurant.
Okay.
That's been there for...
And this is where some of the patrons from Brew River park now to
well,
go get a
that's
crap
where
cake,
I
right?
think most, if not all, of the
Okay.
patrons of Brew River park.
All right.
And when that was sold, when the city sold the Brew River site for the restaurant back about 30 years ago, there was a deal made then.
My name is Justin Schaub, and I'm here to speak tonight on behalf of Brew River Land. Okay? I would like to express our serious concerns regarding the Marina Landing project, specifically the parking lot agreement for Lot 1AA, which we believe violates our existing contract with the City of Salisbury. As part of our agreement, the city committed to developing and maintaining the adjacent parking lot 1AA for the restaurant's use. Our deed explicitly grants Brew River Land use of the lot and mandates that the city maintain 114 parking spaces in perpetuity. When Mr. Hanna discovered this breach of our agreement and deed, he raised the issue with then Mayor Jake Day. The mayor assured him that the conflicting language would be removed from the contract. Regrettably, we later learned this was not done. After consulting with a local attorney, we believe the city has violated our long-standing agreement. Our attorney has submitted a draft complaint to the mayor's office outlining our position. We will pursue legal action to protect our rights. These rights that are spelled out in our deed cannot be transferred to another party. We request the mayor and the council to promptly address the matter to avoid any further conflict.
But doesn't it sound like the parking lot has been promised in the 2 different agreements to 2 different entities, and it's a city-owned parking lot?
It's more than that. In the parking lot agreement that they made, it provides in paragraph 1 that it is to be for the exclusive use of, and it says, public parking and the Marina Landing. Now, question, how can you have 2 exclusive users or 2 exclusive purposes? That's a little bit of an oddity to me. But how is that going to work?
So this kind of goes back into the same thing as the Salisbury City Apartments. And then, because, I mean, right now, Mayor Randy Taylor's in some ways making sure that the parking agreement that was signed with that group is followed through, that there's a parking garage, but in this case, there's not even that requirement.
Well, let's look at Salisbury Town Center Apartments maybe a little bit historically. Again, there was an initial land disposition agreement that was with a company called Devreco, local company. Then, a number of years later, there's an amended agreement.
Because it does seem like they're short of parking, right?
I would say very short of parking. Frankly, I wonder why they would want to proceed, because you can't give private rights in a public parking garage.
Okay.
Because it was established for public parking. And that means I could go there, you could go there, we could park there.
It might not be free, but you
That's
should
right.
have access
Yeah,
to
I
it.
mean, they could make it metered if they wanted to, or they could leave it just as an open lot where anybody can park on it.
Well, and I understand yesterday, Michael Langford, who we've had on the show, who is an advocate for affordable housing, he read a letter that was authored by Holly Worthington that addressed some of these concerns, not as a political figure, but as a constituent, as a citizen.
My name is Michael Langford. I live in the city. I'm here to share comments for for Ms. Holly Worthington. Dear Mayor and Council, the current state of affairs in downtown Salisbury reflects a growing concern among residents and stakeholders about rapid development, increased congestion, overcrowding, and a critical shortage of parking. These issues have become more pronounced as large-scale projects continue to move forward without sufficient infrastructure or long-term planning in place. According to recent parking analysis, the Central Business District is already experiencing a projected shortfall of 702 parking spaces. Despite these clear warning signs, the city has made questionable financial decisions, such as selling off valuable public land at a fraction of its worth. A prime example is the sale of the Marina Landing site, 2.49 acres, which the city purchased in 1988 for $1.4 million and then sold to One Fitzwater Street LLC for just $1, along with a deal granting exclusive use to the adjacent public parking lot. It's important to recognize that Mayor Taylor's insistence on fully understanding the implications of these developments is not obstructionism, it's responsible governance.
One thing that she said, the city actually bought that site from the Tillman Fertilizer Company. I think it was in the 80s, I believe it was 88, for $1.4 million.
Oh my god, the same one that we sold for $1?
Yeah, well,
that's a terrible return on investment.
I'm not sure that the Marina Landing site was all of the property they bought from Tillman. There may have been other parts of it.
Okay.
But it was part of what they bought for $1.4 million.
Yeah.
There may have been some more. I think that the 2.5 acres that they have now sold to the Marina Landing developer was probably most, if not all, of what they bought from the Tillman Fertilizer Company. So, I mean,
poor Mike here. Mike used to do commercial real due diligence. This is really messing with him. So I could he's squirming over here.
I do not understand what their motivations are. Either there's something untoward occurring here, or be no business acumen whatsoever.
Could it be political ambition, just blind ambition?
I think it is. This is a rural county. We want to have certain cultural items, available, cultural amenities. But I don't think most people want to live in the central business district.
I think as someone who grew up here, I mean, I was raised here, and it is a great rural community. And despite that, we have a tremendous amount of cultural events that are here. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And we most certainly can't afford to do it through giveaways. And now, I mean, I'm not a City of Salisbury taxpayer, and I know you're not either.
Thank goodness.
But Bob is.
Sorry about your luck.
And you're talking about lawsuits that, and not just the lawsuits, but when you take this in the context of what we know about just the increase in water and sewer bills in the city of Salisbury, just to cover the debt service that was created by the overburden of the system that the city of Salisbury can afford. And Bob touched on it earlier. Tax giveaways like the Horizon Fund, what they undermined is the government ability to reinvest in those infrastructures to handle the Ross, or buildings like the Ross, I should say. I know we're talking about the Marina Landing, and I know we're using the Ross as another example, but there's more similarities than different. When we come back, I want to spend some time talking about the county council meeting from May 20th, and also exactly what their plans are for their next budget hearing on May 22nd.
That's good, because I pay county taxes too.
Oh yeah, you get double duty. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. So now that we've heard an update on the city council business, and we are going to hear later from Kevin Lindsay more about the city of Salisbury, we also want to keep you updated with the county council, the budget, and the executive's budget proposal. So to continue to do that, Mr. Mike Goldberg, Mr. Bob Taylor, thanks for sticking around, gentlemen.
Can I give my little promo for you?
Yeah?
Yeah, I just watched your last episode, the one where you review of the sale of the Verizon building that the county bought. And I was shocked. I missed that meeting. And the realtor for the seller essentially presented it to the county council. And I mean, I've never seen that before. If the county executive wants to buy a piece of property, they should present it and what they've done. I've never seen anything. I was just almost shocked.
I appreciate you saying that. And I think one of the main focuses of what our very much growing group is doing is using primary source documentation to just present the facts. I mean, yes, I think a lot of both branches of government deserve some blame on the fact that we, in another few months, are going to own a building that we paid almost $4 million for, that our executive's office now is saying needs $3 million in renovations. But it did take the county council to approve that purchase. And that's just the reality of where we're at right
It
now.
just reminded me of something my mom said, whenever you hear a sales pitch, just remember, ask yourself the question, would you buy a used car from that man?
Yeah. Well, we did. We bought a used building. One of the greatest quotes in there was the roof was 7 years old in January of 24, and then by February of 24, it was 15 years old. And they were still in the due diligence period. And to be honest with you, I can't figure out why they didn't take a step back. But at the same time, I mean, even the director of the health department, Matthew McConaughey, was saying, hey, look, this is a great deal. We don't have to do much in the building. We can even bring our old desk over. And now we need an elevator for a building that's only got 2 stories. And it's already got an elevator. So it's not like we don't have one. So, but Mike, you and I, we were at the county council meeting. We understand there's going to be another budget recap hearing on Thursday, May 22nd, which will be about the same time this show airs. We'll have updates in the future on it. But I wanted to ask you a little bit, before we get into the budget side, the last bit of the Safari at the Quarry audit came about. The county council decided that they voted to acknowledge receipt, but they did not accept it. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
This took a lot longer than we thought. We've recently been asked, why are you guys still talking about this after a year? Well, the simple answer is because we've been waiting for a year to get the information.
Acknowledge acceptance of this audit instead of accepting it. My concern with accepting it means that we agree with it. I think the most important thing about this audit, it is exposed the methods that our current executive administration has used against citizens. If you don't agree with her, if something's written or said, what you're going to face, you face that in the response of your letter. Anybody that writes or says anything that they don't agree with, that she doesn't agree with, I mean, you kind of get attacked. And I can't apologize for her about the letter she wrote about you, but I will say that I'm sorry that you had to endure that. It shows a pattern of what's going on in Wicomico County.
Why did they do that?
Well, because there's too many open questions. When you have a financial statement that's unsupported and it is completely unauditable, that makes the audit, probably the most important part of the audit is the finances, and there's nothing conclusive there. And that's also true with respect to the economic impact of the county.
Let's be fair. There's a lot of folks out there saying, this is one community on the edge of the county. Why should they care? And do you see this related to some of the other issues in the county?
It's related to everything else that's going on in the county. And we talked about this, almost a year ago, that Safari at the Quarry is, it's a kind of a canary in the coal mine. The lack of transparency, that was exhibited by the county executive in producing this off-road event there, is finding its way into other issues in the community. We have the biorefinery, that was just thrust upon the residents of Canterbury, and of course
Whitipkin.
And Whitipkin State Park. And meanwhile, the county executive continues to assert that she knew nothing about any of this.
Although, no, she did say that she took DNR on a tour of the county in November of 24.
I was very pleased that Department of Natural Resources did have a Zoom meeting for Wicomico County and for Eastern Shore delegation to try to explain the curiosities involving the Whitipkin as a state park for Wicomico County. No members here were aware of why this decision was made or how it came about until we read about it online. I believe that they were actually at one point in time escorted through Wicomico County. I'm not sure about the details of this, but that's part of what their discovery was in that measure. So the details I think would have to be more specific, but
And then, we still have the original screenshots of the Facebook page back in February 12th of 2025, where she's exclaiming exciting news, which is the announcement that the Wood-Tipton Park is going to be developed. But also, and Bob could speak to some of this, we have the sanitary district coming into Wycomico County. We've never had one before in this county. They're starting in an area of the county in Parsonsburg and Pittsville, where a lot of folks do not have the understanding of what is coming to their neighborhood. I know Safari at the Quarry seems like it's about one neighborhood, but I can speak to someone who lives in Parsonsburg. I don't live in Wood-Tipton, I don't live in Shadow Hills, but I do live in Parsonsburg. I know a lot of my neighbors are not going to know that they have a sanitary district till they get a water bill.
Well, they're not going to be very darn happy about it. It's, again, the lack of transparency. We are not being kept informed about what the executive is doing, how much money the executive is spending. And so what happened at Safari is manifesting itself in many other ways across the county with respect to policy, with respect to budget, and with respect to how county citizens and taxpayers are being treated.
Well, Bob, I want to circle back to something you and I covered a couple months ago. The financial audit from the fiscal year 24, which ended almost 2 years ago. The financial audit did not come out till just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
When you're talking about these humongous expenditures and also the possibility, but we were just talking 2 months ago about breaking through the revenue cap. And just to fund education, but if we don't know where we're at financially, and as someone who sat on the county council as their attorney, how do we possibly know if we should be even looking at raising taxes?
Well, no, I agree with you both in terms of your actual current performance, what you're doing financially. I mean, no business of this size would go more than a month without getting financials of where do we stand compared to last year. I mean, so we can get some feel for trend. Now, they do put a bunch of data out on the website, but the problem of it is it's over 100 pages long.
And they're just data points.
And they're just,
you
here's
would have
everything.
you'd have to enter those ledger entries yourself to keep
or
score.
spend a lot of time pulling things out into your own spreadsheet.
So, Mike, you're talking Safari at the Quarry audit. We're saying, all right, the county executive said that the county lost $1,800. It's not hard to peg a number closer to 10,000, and maybe more. And some of it, like you said, we don't know. When you hear numbers about the sanitary district, that the many millions of dollars that we could be spending for that, is that where some of your anxiety comes from when you know the same entity that's controlling something as small as the Safari at the Quarry that had such a huge impact is also in charge of the sanitary district?
Well, of course, there's a credibility factor, and she has no credibility at this point.
I heard on a radio interview with the current county executive just last week, she was taking credit for the runway extension at the airport and the mechanics school.
She had nothing to do with.
She literally only signed the checks her first week in office for the grant money. Those decisions were made. So from a credibility standpoint, you have someone who is willing to take credit when credit's not due and also pass blame or deny blame when something goes awry. I mean, look, the Safari at the Quarry could have been handled so much differently. It could have been accepted as a one-time mistake, and lots of folks could move on. This denial, this
she has blamed it on everybody but herself. She's the one who initiated this. She signed the contract unilaterally without the consent or knowledge of the council or of the neighborhood stakeholders. It turned out to be undoubtedly a big money loser. There's no getting around that.
Well, how about the appointment of the assistant administrator that went to court because she filed the lawsuit?
Yeah.
How much did that cost?
And that's what people need to really understand. Yeah. She is the county executive filed that lawsuit, not the council. Right. The council had to defend against how much money did that cost, the county taxpayers.
Exactly.
Where there's a lot of money going out into a bottomless bucket, and it's us who are paying for it.
There's one other aspect that I do think is worth mentioning, and I've heard her say it in multiple times, sometimes geared specifically at us, but also geared at some other groups, calling them small. And I think I think this is a chance for some other folks to see really what's going on behind the curtain. Any concern by a citizen is worth noting. You can't govern for a minority. You can't do special interest type of governance, and I'm not advocating for that. But you have to at least acknowledge the cause and effect that happens to any group. When I look at a town like Parsonsburg, has 700 residents in it. They do not have a municipal government. They do not have a mayor or a town council who's going to go and stand up for us. We're all rural residents. If we're all part of a small group that's just not part of the political ambition of a county executive or a county council or a mayor, watch out, because you're about to be bulldozed. And money talks. And
a lot of people in this county are being bulldozed.
Speaking of a citizen who has been able to stand up to government, I want to bring in Kevin Lindsay. We had a chance to interview him last week. And what's one of the interesting things is he's talking about the Salisbury city government, but I think he gives a good example of when you're dissatisfied with how your government's working for you, is what ways you can stand up and defend yourself. So stay with us. When we come back, we're going to spend some time with Kevin Lindsay from the city of Salisbury. Welcome back to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. As the city of Salisbury prepares to go through their budget and also work through some of the lawsuits, we thought it would be a great time to bring some folks who are active in the community into the show to talk about that. In order to do that, we brought in Mr. Kevin Lindsay from Salisbury.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Jovanosa from Salisbury also.
Believe it or not, that's true, yeah.
You all attend a few city council meetings, right?
Yeah.
So Kevin, you're the campaign manager for Jermichael Mitchell, right?
Yes.
And he's planning on running for mayor in Salisbury 2027? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But in the past, you've worked for the city of Salisbury.
Yeah. Yep.
And currently you're the director of strategy and alignment for the YMCA of the Chesapeake.
Yes.
All right.
Yep. Yeah.
Before we started shooting, you started talking about how that organization's growing, and that's an area that grows kids and their families all at once, correct?
Yeah, it's not I tell everybody, if you want to just pick the weights up and put them down, go join Planet Fitness. YMCA, we do a lot of different things with youth. We have a Parkinson's disease program. We have a diabetes program. We have a gym. We play basketball. We do softball, baseball. So it's really different than a Planet Fitness, a more family-oriented organization. So I always tell individuals, like, look, if you just want to work out, it won't hurt us feelings, go to Planet Fitness. Or if you want to be involved in a family atmosphere, come to the YMCA to Chesapeake.
Well, when you were working for the city of Salisbury, you were a neighborhood relations manager, right?
Yes.
So, what was a day like there? What did you do on a
we were in charge. We had a department. I had a youth development specialist, which was Jermichael Mitchell, who worked underneath me, and I did the neighborhoods, the communities, where we were in charge of pop-up bus stops where we greeted youth once a month after they got out of school, gave them food, snacks, things of that nature, and then what we typically tried to do right after we did that, roll into neighborhood walks where we're bringing the city to the community, because not everybody can come to a city council meeting, right? So we bring the mayor, the city administrator, deputy city administrator, and we was kind of like at that buffer between the mayor and the administration and the citizens of Salisbury. Working with Jermichael as a youth development specialist, he probably knew more about those communities than I did, so it was great to work with him and ask him questions, ask his opinion on things.
Well, talking about being a buffer, it seems right now with the city of Salisbury, with so many controversial topics coming up, it must seem pretty intimidating to an average citizen, not a kid, but just even an adult. Right now, we're talking lawsuits, development, density, and crosswalks.
Yeah.
So are we having these conversations in the right order?
I don't know if we're having it in the right order. I don't even know if we're having it in the right spaces.
Okay.
I think Facebook is not reality. Social media is not reality. And I think a lot of times people think it is, right? I think if we have to find a way, everybody, between developers, PFLAG, the mayor, the administration, to come to a table one-on-one and hash it out and have discussions, come to an agreement. Instead of making recall Randy pages and hiding behind that, or just complaining about X, Y, and Z because times are tough right now.
We have a professor of history here, and I want to ask him this question. Doesn't it seem like in Salisbury we're governing from the fringes and not in the center? Is that accurate?
I think you could. I think to some extent we're insulting people on the fringes.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Because I think you're right. I mean, I think fringes is a term. Maybe special interests would also be more
special
appropriate.
interest is more accurate, I would say.
Yeah, because when these conversations happen, I think to your point, Kevin, is that we have this weird pattern where there's a hyper online minority of people who are particularly connected to either the development class or to a certain kind of downtown crowd, for lack of a better term, and regular people, the real voiceless people that are trying to pay their bills, that are trying to get services, feel like they're left behind. In the midst of this whole conversation that's happening about the crosswalk or about the potential or threats of lawsuits by certain people that are connected to the former mayor, people tend to overlook that at the last city council meeting, they just passed the second reading for a 6% raise, rate change raise on water and sewer.
Which we just had a very large increase recently.
Correct. And again, the irony is that the argument that both council and administration admitted in that raise was that it was largely because of the fact that we have to pay our debt service. Why? Because we've gone into debt so much to fund the developers and certain other special projects that really don't benefit, what I think we all would call regular people.
Well, so talk about a regular person, and I'm not a resident of Salisbury. I'm not a taxpayer or voter in Salisbury. But the previous administration from Jake Day seems like it planted some of these seeds that we're really grappling with now. I mean, it can be crosswalks because he's the one who put that in place. But more importantly, a lot of these properties that were sold off in surplus, some of them for as little as $1. One of the things that interesting, and I see it coming up in a topic in a future show, is over at the Marina Landing, there's a parking lot, a city parking lot. Now, this parking lot's owned by the taxpayers of the city of Salisbury. I park there whenever I go to Brew River. But that parking lot is pretty much promised to Brew River and the public to use, but it's also promised to the Marina Landing. So now, Randy Taylor did not make these promises. And, but we're having to deal with them now. Are we dealing with them the right way?
It's no way we're dealing with it the right way because it seems like every few weeks we're talking about parking lots. We're talking about development. We're talking about, and to be fair to Randy, like he's coming into this, looking at everything and saying something's not right. Right. And I didn't make these decisions. And he has to look out for his constituents, the people that voted for him, the people that didn't vote for him. Right. And give Randy some credit. Like he ran on this. Like he said he was going to do all of these things, and he's a man of his word, and that does go a long way.
Yeah, and I have to say this because, and full disclosure, during the campaign, I was on Megan Outland's campaign initially, and one of the things that I was concerned about as time went on and as the campaign developed, there was a real split between different people, was the fact that there seems to be in Salisbury's general environment, sort of there's what you see in public and then the real private behind-the-scenes power structure. And I can remember going to a fundraiser at Green Street Housing, and you had all the developers there, and they were literally kind of calling the shots about policy and literally dictating, this is what you will do, this is what we need to have done. And it's this interesting combination where it's self-interest, but also almost like a fanatical ideology of, if you just give us more public money, we're going to benefit, but at some point, y'all will too.
Right.
Well, the one thread of the lawsuit from the hotel developer, which is Mentis, now these are the same folks we just gave a huge tax break to for the Ross, is for the hotel.
Right.
And this is the hotel spot where we used to have the flea market, something that used to bring the community together.
And people made money on for their work because they sold goods there.
Yeah. Do we have someone, we have the city council president, Deshaun Dowdy.
Yeah.
He does, in the position he's in, he has the ability to dictate the conversation, maybe not the outcome.
No, right, yeah.
But it does seem, as an outsider looking in, that he gets his feelings hurt really quickly. Particularly, I think Randy grates on him.
Right.
I mean, he grates on Randy.
A lot of grading to go around.
Yeah, but to the taxpayers of the city of Salisbury, and even to some degree, those of us who shop and spend our money there, are we getting left behind for some political ambition?
Yeah, I will say this: you get in this business, it's not easy, right? And you need
the politics
the
business.
politics business,
Okay.
And you really need to be prepared for what is going to happen, right? You really have to surround yourself by good people.
Okay.
You have to surround yourself by people that don't have self-interest, right? And you have to be a leader.
Well, and look, I'm hearing one common theme from both of you. Is the developers don't have the best interest of the residents and especially the taxpayers right now in this city. I mean, former Mayor Jake Day is very tied to developers. I don't think there's any denying that. I mean, there's a check signing monthly. I don't know. It's a lot.
And Salisbury tradition.
Yeah, well, and
third Friday.
Yeah. First Friday.
First Friday.
When your checks get clear. But the developers, and we're dealing with this some too with, say, the Greater Salisbury Committee in Wacomico County, who are looking to break our revenue cap. They're thinking for the greater good, but the greater good is Dr. Venosa said earlier, is somebody who's trying to pay their taxes and put food on the table.
Yeah,
you know,
I think you're more generous than I don't think. I think with some of these people who are more maybe on the outskirts of the organizations, like let's say the Greater Salisbury Committee, I would say some marginal members probably have a sense of the greater good or just a sense of they're doing it for social networking. I do believe personally that there is malintent among some people that are doing things behind closed doors that are essentially, as far as a lot of regular people see it, are doing things in the most that really don't bring in any local input. I mean, how often does the Greater Salisbury Committee, or at this point the City Council, actually go out and get consent and advice and engagement from people who are not part of the professional, elite, managerial business?
Well, I look around when I go to a city council meeting or watch the city or the county council meetings or watch the city council on PAC 14. When you look at who's got political ambitions above the job that they have, I feel like there's definitely a large margin for error that they may do something that benefits their career versus the greater good. And to me, we've said it many times, local politics has a bigger impact on your day-to-day life.
Yep.
The national and the state rhetoric doesn't need to fall here unless we want it to fall here.
I agree.
Well, thanks for coming out. Would love to have you back in, especially as the campaign starts to ramp up. And
no doubt.
I do want to give a shout out to Jermichael Mitchell for one thing.
Yeah.
I know he's going to run the girls' outdoor basketball through the summer, right?
Yeah.
And I go to a lot of Parks and Rec meetings, and he's on the commission. I think what a really cool way to engage students when the schools aren't in session. That gives them at least one night or a couple nights a week where they have something productive to do.
He's excellent at that, bro, and he'll when he'll see this, he'll smile. But I remember him running the campaign. So when this campaign is over, remember who you see out here doing the work.
Yeah,
and he's backing that up. So Jeremiah's probably one of the most sincere people I've ever met, and a really good dude. I've known him for a while. He's a really good dude.
On that note, I just wanted to say something, because I know I've said it privately and in other ways, but this needs to be said publicly for it. I want to personally, as a man, apologize for being on the campaign in the way that it was done, especially when we saw the wrong that we did, both you and Jeremiah.
Appreciate that.
No, it's the truth. It wasn't right. I'm not proud of it, but we got to talk about these kind of things because we all got to live in this community. And sometimes we do, for different reasons, either not see things until it's too late, or we make bad decisions. So for what it's worth.
Appreciate that. We're waiting on somebody else that did it. His name it begins with a J, so you can.
And it's not me.
It's not you. It's not Joseph. So we're waiting for somebody else to personally apologize, but I don't think that's ever going to happen, and we're not going to hold our breath. But I do appreciate that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thanks for coming out. Yeah. That's all from an Open Agenda.
I'm asking for the same kindness